Yeah.
Please tell me your name and tell me when you attended or worked at Barrow.
My name is John Traylor, and when I was at Barrow School, people called me Johnny Traylor, and some people still call me that, and that's okay. I went to Barrow in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and sixth grade. And that was in let's see, I would have been about 5 when I went to kindergarten. So that was 1953, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, and 59. 1953 through 1959.
So, what kind of student were you?
I was a good student, but I wasn't one of the best students. I never was a real fast learner. As a matter of fact, when I was in the second grade learning to read, there were about 20 people in my class, and there were about 3 of us that were having a little trouble reading. And they put me in a reading class for slow people that kind of learning to read kind of slow. And there were some people in there that were really dumb, and it embarrassed me. And I learned how to read in 2 days, and I was put back with the rest of my class. But I was kind of an outdoorsy guy, and I used to spend a lot of time looking out the window and wishing I could be out playing in the creek and fishing and stuff like that, kind of like Tom Sawyer. You ever read that book? Yeah, well, I'm that kind of person. And so I had one brother and 2 sisters, and they were real smart. They always learned real quick, but they didn't enjoy the outdoors like I did. So I made A's and B's and C's all through school. So I wasn't what people call a really smart one, but I had enough sense and enough drive, to where I was willing to work hard, to do what I was supposed to do in school and not slow everybody else down. So, does that mean anything to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't one of the smartest ones, but I wasn't one of the dumbest ones. Okay?
So tell me, what was a typical school day like? Were there like bullies or anything?
We didn't have any bullies at Barrow School. Now, there were some bullies in middle school and some bullies in high school. And but the typical day, the teachers were really nice here, and they still are. This was the best place to go to school in Athens, and it still is today. The teachers were really good. They were nice. They were really good about teaching. They were interested in people. They were interested in you learning, and they were interested in doing a good job. And the principal only hired the really good ones. I only had one bad teacher when I was here, and the principal figured out that it was a bad teacher, and she was a bad teacher. And at Christmas break, we all went home, and after we came back to school from Christmas break, guess what happened to that teacher? They weren't here anymore. So that was the only bad one that I knew, and I still remember most of the teachers' names that I have here, as well as the principal. And they were all really good and really nice.
That's great. Thank you for telling us that. Are you still friends with anybody that you had at your time at Barrow?
Yes, I am.
Please tell me what.
As a matter of fact, one of my neighbors that I went to Barrow School with, and his name is Benson, just like your name. Benson, okay. And he lives right down the street, and we see each other, like each other. And quite a few of the people that I went to Barrow with still live here in Athens. And I see them sometimes in Sunday school, and I see them sometimes when I don't go to many parties, but when I do go to a party every now and then, I see these people, and I always enjoy talking to them. And it seems like the older we get, the better friends we get.
What did students do for fun at recess? Like, did they play basketball or foursquare or anything?
We at recess, I know what I did. And what I like to do, we play softball, and then we would play. Have you ever played roll hit the bat? And we would play on the playground and do the monkey ball. We had monkey bars and things like that. And seemed like recess was always a good time, a fun time. And I don't really remember playing basketball at recess. But I do remember we had swings. I like to do the swings. And then we had, little things you could climb on and stuff like that. So that was fun.
Where was the playground?
The playground was where the gym is now. The gym was not there then. We didn't have a gym. We didn't have an indoor gym at Barrow School. And where we did a lot of our playing was in that area there. And then a little bit farther to the right, as we're looking, there was where all the swings and the things to climb on were there.
So, do you have any favorite stories from Barrow that you'd like to tell us about?
Let me see. Do I have any stories? I remember when I first started going to Barrow, I had a sister that was 3 years older than me. And when I first started going to school here, she told me that she was just teasing me, but I didn't know she was teasing me. But she told me, she said, "Oh, you better watch out when you start going to Barrow School, because if you don't do good, the principal has a spanking machine, and they'll take you to the principal's office, and they'll lay you on a table and put you onto this spanking machine, and it hits you real hard and real fast. And you better watch out and make sure you do good, because you don't want to get that spanking machine." But that was just she fooled me. But for a couple of years, I thought they really did have a spanking machine, but they didn't. But the principal was nice, and I never had to go to the principal's office for doing bad. Although I did some things. I remember I got in a couple of scuffles with a couple of the boys, but nothing bad. People didn't used to fight much back then, and when they did, it was just they didn't hurt each other. Just made a lot of noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you like any water? Okay. Feel free.
What historical events happened when you were at Barrow?
Well, let's see. This was in the mid to early 50s, and during that time, I think that the president was President Eisenhower, and World War II ended in 1945, and the Korean War was going on then, where we were fighting in Korea. But not any big historical event other than that war happened then. It was a good time to live in the 1950s. I will say that my mother went to school at Barrow School, and she was in school from 23 to 1950. 1930, I believe. 1923 to 1929 or 1930.
So, your mom went to Barrow right when it started. I think that's pretty interesting. So, were there any unique like celebrations at Barrow that what we don't have now?
Like, were you there during like the first assembly, or was your mom there, or like the first storybook parade or anything?
Well, my mother went to Barrow, and my aunt, my mother's sister, and my mother's brother, they all went to Barrow School. And my uncle was friends with David C. Barrow Jr., whose father Barrow School was named after. And they were good friends. And David C. Barrow Jr. became a teacher himself, and he taught me when I went to the University of Georgia. But one thing I didn't say is there was a historical event when my mother was in school here. It was when a man named Charles Lindbergh was the first person to fly an airplane across the Atlantic Ocean. You ever heard of him? Mm-hmm. Well, about a year after he did that, he flew over a bunch of towns in the South, and he flew over Athens, Georgia, real low, and he stuck his head out the window of the airplane, and he told them that he was going to fly over Barrow School. And he told them what time he was going to be there, and so all the kids were out in the playground waiting for him to come, and he came right when he was supposed to. And he flew right over the school, and he was real low and leaned his head out and started waving at everybody. And then he threw some little things out of the airplane. They had little notes and stuff on it. And my mother was there, and she saw that. So let's see. Was there, you asked about, no, I don't. I remember having assemblies, and I remember celebrations. We used to have a May Day celebration. Did y'all have that? And we also had a celebration. We would get together and sing Christmas carols in the hall.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And we would have a big Halloween celebration here. Do y'all have that?
We have like a storybook parade.
Yeah, well, we had a big festival here, and they had all the teachers were here, and they had things like where you did things and you could buy a little ticket and win a prize and played musical chairs. Y'all ever done musical chairs? All right, and they also had another thing called a cake walk. And a bunch of teachers and parents would make big, pretty cakes. And you'd pay like 10 cents to buy a ticket to do the cake walk. And you'd all walk around in a circle, and whenever the music stopped, whatever number you were standing on, and then they would draw out of the hat, and they said, who's got number 19? And whoever had number 19 would win the cake. And then they would do it again and then have another cake. And then they would have a thing where you put your hands behind your back, and they'd have these apples floating in the water, and you had to open your mouth and try to bite one of those apples and pick it up without touching it. And it was pretty hard to do because I didn't have a very big mouth. If you had a big mouth, you could probably.
So are there any teachers that really made a big impact on your life, like any that you can remember?
Well, let's see. I remember my first grade teacher. Her name was Miss Somerset, and she was so sweet. She was a sweet, sweet lady. And a lot of kids kind of got homesick and cried when they were at school their first few days. But a couple of them did in the class, but she was so sweet to me, I didn't even think about crying. And I had some other good teachers that were just very they didn't treat all the kids the same. The kids were different and needed to be treated differently. And I do remember the lady that taught my mother. Her name was Miss Thelma Elliott, and she was my mother's teacher. Well, guess who she also taught in the second grade? Me. And she was a really good teacher. And I had another teacher named Miss Callahan, and she was a really good one. And another one named Miss James, and she was my sixth grade teacher. And she was really good. And just, tried to understand you and help people. It was a really good experience going to school here. I couldn't imagine a better place to go to school. Better teachers. The food wasn't very good, though.
The food has improved a lot. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with me about Barrow?
I have a lot of things that I would be willing to talk about, but there's just so many things. I don't know what all to say, but I will show you, and I will tell you, I showed you a picture of me when I went to Barrow School. And I told you that I wasn't the smartest one, but I wasn't one of the dumbest ones. I was kind of right in the middle, and I was willing to, I was always willing to, to work hard and to get the job done. And even though I wasn't one of the smartest ones. And, but I went to, after I left Barrow, I went to what was then called Athens Junior High. We only had one junior high school. They didn't call it middle school, they called it junior high. And I went there in the 7th grade and the 8th grade. And Barrow did a really good job of preparing me to go to that next level of schooling. And then I went to what they call Athens High School, which is now called Clark Central. But back then it was called Athens High School. And then I went to the University of Georgia. And because I was willing to work hard, I graduated from the University of Georgia, and I got a degree. And I went into the United States Air Force, where I was a pilot for 20 years. So all I'm just trying to tell you is you don't have to be the smartest one. But as long as you're not the dumbest one, and as long as you got a good work ethic, and you're willing to do what you're supposed to do, and work hard enough to get the job done, you can do anything you want to do in life.
Are there any really special moments from Barrow that you just want to hold on to forever and as long as you can?
That's a good question, and there probably is. I had my first girlfriend when I was at Barrow, and I remember she was my girlfriend in the 4th grade, and she was a cute little redheaded girl, and she liked me, and I liked her. I took her to the movies, but one thing we would do is during the middle of the morning when the weather was nice, the teacher would take us we would leave the classroom, and we would go right before lunch on a little walk, and we'd walk around the block. And it was nice. And guess what why I really enjoyed walking around the block? Because I got to walk with her, and we would hold hands while we were walking around the block. And that was very precious. And I remember that. It was a really sweet feeling.
Do you still know, your girlfriend that you had when you were in 4th grade?
I have not seen her in years, in a long time. But I think she still lives in Athens. And, but I never see her. But I had other girlfriends, when I got older. And I don't see them very often, but we enjoy seeing each other when we do. So, no, I don't see that particular one, but I wish I had a picture of her when I was, in that grade. I used to have a picture of her. I don't know what happened to it. but it would be nice to look at it and remember those times. It's nice to have good memories.
Yeah. Well, what do you miss the most about Barrow Elementary?
I probably miss the most is just being young and having all of this. When you're young, there's so much about the world and things that you're interested in, and kind of amazed by, and there are all kind of new things to discover, and you really can't appreciate that when you're young, but you appreciate it when you're older. And some people, there's a saying that says, youth is wasted on the young. And the reason they say that is because when you're young, you just don't know how precious and wonderful time that is. But when you get older, you do. But that's the way a lot of life is like that.
Is that how you think today?
Thank you for telling us all this information about Barrow School and when you went and all the historical events that happened. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, it's really interesting to learn about Barrow's past. So yeah.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask of things that you don't have written out to ask?
Well, did the building kind of look like the way it does now when you went?
It sure did. This wing wasn't here where the library is. And there was another wing that wasn't here, and the gym wasn't here, but the cafeteria was in the same place. And I will say this, that it's not, this is kind of an old, a lot of this building is kind of an old building, but that doesn't really mean anything. What matters is your school administration, your principal, and your principal staff, and the teachers. That's what really matters, and the heart of the people, and their nature and their caring, and how whether they really care for kids or whether they're just trying to do it to make a living. And your principal here is probably maybe the best principal that's ever been. I know him. He's probably one of the best principals that they've ever had in this whole state of Georgia. And he really cares about people, and he hires people to teach and be on his staff that care about people and that are also trying to make a living, but they also really care and are trying to make a difference. So it doesn't, this could be the oldest school building in the state of Georgia, but as long as you have the staff that's here for the reason that they're here, that's what's important. And that's what's going to be important to you.
Thank you for telling us all this information.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very nice to meet you.
So